Well, hello. Welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You are listening to episode number 190. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and number one best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction. Align yourself with the manifesting conditions and successfully attract your desires. I'm also the founder of hiptalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores. And today I have a very special guest with me, Virginia Baker-Woolf. Virginia is an accredited master coach and certified money coach. As a coach of 20 years standing, her passion and purpose is the transformation of her clients. When her clients transform and get what they want, Virginia's heart sings, and that is simply the best feeling. Virginia started her money journey in 2015. She had been coaching busy women and other women about impostor syndrome, organizational culture and politics, how to get ahead in their positions and ask for more money, how to put an end to under earning and upgrading their lives. But like the painter whose house needs painting, she spent zero time tending to her own life and her own money. So she made a decision that she'd had enough of that, and she started a journey of research, study, learning, and certification. And so Virginia found that money work is so transformational that she did the work to get certified as a money coach. And this work is like no other coaching, because when you're dealing with money, the rubber really meets the road. You can put anything under the table when dealing with money, but we pull off the pin on the money host and the pin gets pulled and we transform many lives. And so I am really excited to talk to you today about your money project and about helping other people to really shed some insight on those money blocks that impact women. So welcome to the show, Virginia.
Victoria, thank you very much. And thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, it's a delight. I love this subject, and I think it's a subject that is so important. And, it doesn't get talked about in a way, I think, that is as beneficial. So many people that are coaches or in the healing profession, I think so many people kind of have these money blocks, and they don't really know how to, pull that pin out and, kind of figure out how to turn things around and empower themselves when it comes to money, and especially women. I don't know, it's just a lot of women's upbringings. And so what is the situation that you'd say with, when it comes to women and money?
Well, it's a complex subject. Women and money is a very different thing to men and money. And we are still suffering the effects of gender-based living, where the man does one thing and the woman does another thing. Now, in many ways, women have valiantly fought to claim their place. So we now go to work and we can have a credit card and we can get a mortgage on our own. We can do all sorts of things that women in the 1970s couldn't do. In Australia in 1971, a woman could not take out a mortgage by herself. She couldn't have a credit card without her husband's permission. You couldn't get a payment plan for a car without your husband's permission. So, thank God we have changed that to a degree. And then in the 1960s, if you look at the sexual revolution, we've gone from the 1950s, where you had to be a virgin to get married. And if you weren't a virgin, you were a slut. And then we moved into the 1960s. And by the time we get to 1970, everybody's playing around and experimenting with sex. And by the time we get to 1980, that's pretty well all okay. But what we haven't managed to get a handle on is money. And the statistics bear us out. the financial institutions that we have and the social constructs about women and money don't do women any favours. So this is another area where we have to really step up. We have to step up in the same way that we did about voting, sexual revolution, and the very ordinary money problems like getting a mortgage. So we're light years away from those things, but this is the last thing to manage. And women are not in a good position in regards to money. We retire with less money than a man. And that happens because we have broken career. I mean, when I say broken, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, we have disrupted careers. We have disrupted careers because it turns out that we're the ones who have the babies, and babies disrupt careers. And that's fine. We've learned to a tremendous extent how to manage that, but it still remains the case that men have more time uninterrupted to add into their pension, their superannuation, whatever it is in your country. 63% of Australian women have a problem at the end of the month with their bills. So that means that 63% of women are suffering some kind of anxiety about money at the end of every month. That's an awful lot of women. And we're not talking about women who are living paycheck to paycheck. We're talking about women who are earning in excess of $200,000. So there are lots of issues that women are affected by with money, but it happens equally to women who are earning a lot and women who are not earning a lot.
That's interesting. Yeah. And I was just talking to a client, who, I mean, it's really difficult, especially when you add kids into the mix. So that was one of the things that I was really fortunate is I never chose to have children, but so I can only imagine because, women typically are the caretakers of, children. And so when you throw children in the mix and you're expected to be the one that raises a child, and it makes it much more of a challenge to earn money. So that's really interesting. What would you say? And it's really interesting too. It's a problem with women who are earning six figures, and it's not like they're not earning enough money. So what would you say are the main issues?
Okay, so if we take a woman who's earning a very good salary, there can be a number of things going on. She, like many other women earning that much or less, are very impacted by the power that money can give them. And I don't mean like power, I mean like good power, like empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Can you ask me the question again, Victoria?
Just what are like the main issues that women have with money?
Okay. The main issue is that we all carry a money story, a money narrative inside our head and our heart. And we came to this money story. This money story was formed when we were 4, 5, 6, and 7 years of age. And we've never questioned it, or at least the majority of us have never questioned it. And we've not even seen it as a story. We've just seen it as the way things were. So we all learnt a whole load of stuff in our childhoods about money. And the greater majority of people will be still reflecting their parents' relationship with money. And this is a little bit like in a child work. We have to actually work with that child to bring her up to the present day where we're adults. So we all need to change our money story. Now, your money story from your family as a woman may well be that women are not in charge of the money. The men are in charge of the money. The woman has a little bit of a part-time job, but mainly she's raising the children, and there's not a lot of money for her. So that's one thing, the relationship with the parents and what it shows. And then things as simple as, in financial institution advertisements, you never see a woman. It's always men. So we do not see ourselves represented in the culture with money. Now, some people might say that's not much. I say it's an awful lot. We don't see ourselves. We're not in the picture. And we need to get in the picture.
Yeah.
And the only way we're going to get in the picture is to go back and rewrite, well, first of all, figure out what our money story is, and then decide what we want and rewrite that story, and then come to decisions about how we're going to fulfill that story and get to where we want to be. Many women, there's a whole disparity between men and women, as I've said. Women can feel that if they take on the money, they will be emasculating their male partner. Women can also feel that if it turns out that they're actually better at managing the money than the other person, well, then there can be a fear about losing the love of that person because they feel like they're showing them up. And there can be a discord in the relationship and in the power balance of the relationship. Many women suffer from impostor syndrome, and that's all about I am not enough and I am not good enough. And we have learnt that also through society. It's a bag of minds, and we actually need to blow it up.
Yeah. Well, as a hypnotherapist, what the way I translate for me, what I'm hearing you say is, I mean, it's a lot of limiting beliefs that are going straight, a lot of messages that we heard, these subliminal messages, we're taking in because the subconscious mind thinks in pictures. So you see these images out there that the men have all the money and their men are in, these financial magazines that just bypasses any conscious, logical, rational thinking and goes straight to the subconscious. So we're just taking in this message.
That is absolutely right. You nailed it on the head. So yes, when we're 4 or 5 years of age, we don't know anything about beliefs and paradigms and patterns and money. We don't know any of that stuff. What we do know is how our mother feels about money. We know that from the look on her face. Same with the father. Same with the grandparents if they had a lot to do with the child. Yes, the subconscious mind picks up on the image. And if the mother's looking in her wallet and she doesn't have enough and she's got a particular face on, that's what the kid gets. Mm-hmm. And if the father's always the one that buys ice cream because for whatever reason the father has a bit more money in his pocket, the child picks up on that. The child picks up on every single little thing and they form a story out of it.
I got a story. As I'm talking to you, I'm hearing, the story for me is just, you got to work your fanny off. Because I watched my dad work very hard. We didn't, I lived with my mom. I grew up with my mom, but my dad was so busy that he didn't really have time, to call us or to write out the child support checks and things like that. And I watched my mom work so hard, and, and what do you know? I work very hard. I always have. I haven't really had, much of an issue with money, but I just, I just work nonstop.
that overworking is also a symptom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to look at symptoms with any blame attached. It's to look at a symptom with curiosity and say, this is very interesting. This is very curious. What is it really about? What, in my gut, what am I really feeling? What is really going on here? So if your parents were like that, then possibly you don't get loved by your parents unless you're working the hardest they are. because that's the rule in our family. We all work really, 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 really hard.
Really?
We don't have time for much else because we work really, 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 really hard. And yeah, what is it really about? Is it about you had to be the same as your parents? Now, you're not alone, Victoria, because most everybody has, whatever it is, they're reflecting their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And they're reflecting their parents not just in like the notes in their hand, they're reflecting their parents in things like you just said, things about work, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, the flip side of the coin could be that your father was a bum and he didn't earn any money. And so that can have a reversed impact where the woman says, I've got to earn a lot of money because I'm not going to be like him. So a lot of what we're doing is in response to something else.
Absolutely.
And we made up a story about that. And
So
many of us are still living that story without questioning it. And I've got to reiterate here, it's not about beating up on ourselves. And it's not about feeling like we've made a mistake. It's about being curious and saying, where can I go from here?
I like that, the curiosity, because that really takes you off the defense. And I think when, curiosity, I mean, it really opens up the mind, and it, really just allows you to just innocently check and see like what else is there? What else is there? And so I really, really am a fan of that state of curiosity.
Well, when you're curious, you don't have to be on the defensive. Being curious is just a small step, and it can have huge ramifications. And the other thing that goes with the curiosity is compassion.
Hmm.
If you made a heap of financial mistakes in your 20s or 30s, and now you look at your situation and you think, God, what a dill I was. How stupid. All I do is make mistakes. That kind of thinking is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help anything. So we have to have a lot of compassion about ourselves. And that is, I made those mistakes then because I didn't know then what I do know now. And that's okay. Money is a learnable skill, just like walking and talking.
Oh, I like that.
And when we learnt to walk, we made a heap of mistakes and we kept falling over. And nobody said, you better put that kid in a chair and don't let it walk because, look, it can't walk. So leave it there in the chair. Okay, no, instead of that, the baby who starts to walk, we all say how wonderful this baby is and how terribly clever this baby is. And we stand there and we clap the baby because for us as adults, walking is a pretty small thing, but in the world of a baby, it's huge. And the same when a baby starts to talk, especially when they have all sorts of maybe funny vocab that they've chosen for different things. And we all have a laugh and we think this baby's hilarious. and we clap the baby. And the baby, meantime, is making far more mistakes than not mistakes. And we keep clapping and saying how wonderful. And this is what we need to do with ourselves. We need to treat ourselves like that small person who doesn't know stuff, who trips up, makes mistakes, falls over, and gets up again with a smile and keeps going. And that's how we need to treat ourselves, clapping ourselves and being compassionate.
That is beautiful. I wish we would all just do that. What do you think gets in the way? To me, it feels like an ego thing. Like what do you think gets in the way of somebody allowing themselves just to admit or to make those mistakes and to keep getting back up? And what would you say?
Well, because that's about having a growth mindset or a closed mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So people who have a pretty closed mindset are not allowed to make mistakes. They're simply not allowed to make mistakes. And, our education system doesn't help us with this. there's so much pressure on kids to have the right answer or to know whatever it is, to know something. And the kid that sits there asking questions while they doodle gets told that they're naughty. So it starts there. So it starts in the family, and then it starts in school, where we learn you're not allowed to make mistakes. Now, Samuel Beckett, is a wonderful quote from Samuel Beckett where he says, fail, fail again, fail better. And the more we fail better, the closer we'll get to where we're going. And of course, the thing is to look at, how people who've invented things, how they hit success. So, there's the guy who, I think it's called M&M. It's a stationery thing.
3M. Mm-hmm.
Yes, 3M. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. That guy had 99 failures before he got to the number 100, where he was a success. And of course, he's still a great success. I don't know if he's still alive, but he's still a great success because that product sells. And it came out of making a mistake. That product was based on a mistake.
I remember that story with the yellow stickies.
Yeah, yeah. So we need to have a growth mindset. And a growth mindset says that we're open to learning. We're always open to learning. We're curious, and it's okay to make a mistake. So if we didn't have permission for mistakes previously in our life, then we have to give ourselves permission to make mistakes. And an interesting thing is that I used to teach foreign languages, Spanish. And to teach a language well, it needs to be very active. You're not sitting there with a book writing down verb endings. A Spanish class with me was talking. You had to talk. So when they came to the first class and they found out that they had to talk in Spanish, they didn't know any Spanish. What were they going to do? I said, you're going to learn how to say hello, and you're going to learn how to say to somebody what your name is. That's what you're going to learn. And by the time you leave here, you'll have a couple of sentences in Spanish. Now, you cannot learn a language, a foreign language, without making a heap of mistakes. you just can't. It's the same as when we learn our mother tongue. We can't learn that without a heap of mistakes. But with a foreign language, we're adult. So we have a whole lot more problem about making that same mistake. Now, the student who is prepared to be vulnerable in the Spanish class and who is prepared to make mistakes is the one who will learn the fastest. And there's a whole trajectory that you go on from not being able to speak a foreign language to becoming fluent. And there are a whole load of milestones, and it's very interesting that the way we learn language is that we learn a certain amount and we reach a plateau. And we actually have to sit on that plateau. Our brain needs us just to sit there while it puts all the pieces together. And when the brain has managed to do that, we go on and we improve to the next plateau. And it keeps going like that until we're fluent. So we need to give ourselves the same sorts of plateaus. And in adult language learning, some people can't open their mouth to say a foreign word because they think they'll say it wrong. So the first job of the language teacher is to help this student feel safe. No one's going to laugh at them. Help them to feel safe and help them to feel okay to be seen in a real way. Because language is so connected to who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can't say something intelligent, you feel like you're dumb. And some language students just feel dumb all the time. Well, they'll leave the class. And they're not leaving the class because they don't have the capacity to learn a language. They're leaving because they don't have the capacity to make a mistake. And the same analogy happens with mistakes with money.
Yeah, help us to bridge that over to how does that translate to making mistakes with money? Can you give us some examples of some ways that we can begin to build those new foundations and not be afraid to make those mistakes with
Yeah.
money?
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing is to become financially literate. And by financially literate, I don't mean that you're now a stockbroker and you can go and trade stocks. I mean that you can do your budget. That's all I mean. Become financially literate. And it's a very wise move if people take learning about money the same way they take learning about anything for them. So some people, different people like to do different sorts of things. The same way as different people like to journal. There are lots of ways to journal. So there are lots of ways to learn about money. And the first step is to find a way that you like. I'm not suggesting doing anything that you don't like. Find something that you like. So you can play around online and see what you find that is a fit for you. There's an Australian book that I think's the absolute best, and it's the best because he speaks in that book in a very conversational tone. He's not making you feel dumb. He's telling you that you just need to learn this stuff the same as you learn other stuff, and here are a few steps to do that. And that is absolutely the first thing. And until we're financially literate, we won't be able to get out of stumbling around in the dark, because what we do, all of us, and I include myself, we stumble around in the dark about money. And we do realise that we're stumbling around in the dark, but we've got so much anxiety about turning on the light that we prefer to stay in the dark, because when we turn on the light, we might see something scary. Now, the way to manage scary things is to take one small step at a time to make that thing not be scary anymore. So financially literate, and what goes hand in hand with that is making a budget. Now, the budget has a very bad name and a bad reputation. And the reason that it has that bad reputation is because women think this is going to make me deprive myself. To make this budget work, I will have to deprive myself. I think a lot of women, the majority of women, look at budgets like that. This is going to deprive me and it's going to make me sad and miserable, so I'm not going to do it. We need to flip that coin. And when we flip it, we can say having a budget is a way to making choices about how we're living. Do you want to buy that handbag, or do you want to save up for a holiday? I mean, what's more important to you?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I find budget. I actually manage the budget in our house. We have a budget, and and especially since we've bought and need to furnish, this huge house. And, there's one thing to buying a house and taking on, a bigger mortgage, but then you've got all the rooms that you got to, make pretty. And that requires, unless you're a multimillionaire, that requires, a little bit of fancy budgeting and, really taking a look. And, there was a time I remember years ago, when, I did kind of hit a hole where I didn't really want to look at my bank account, because it's like, you don't like what you see, or you're afraid of what you're going to see. And I just feel like anything like that, it starts with that awareness, and because that awareness empowers you to do something different, it's going to cause you to take action and put things in motion. So I validate that 100%, really being financially literate, seeing, seeing what's there. It's very, very empowering.
Yes. And it's not just empowering because of the financial steps. It's empowering because you have taken some control over your situation.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't like what you see, the fact remains that you have taken control. You have been responsible. You can feel good about yourself in this step. You don't like what you see? That's okay. We need to take another step. How can we improve what you're seeing? And that can be, look, a lot of women under-earn. This is another issue. We under-earn because we feel safer like that. We're not a threat to too many people if we're under-earning. And I think a great majority of women do this.
Talk about that a little bit more. I think a lot of women out there do under-earn and would like to, really break through those kinds of blocks to their success, So can you speak to that a little bit more on some what maybe, what are some of the blocks that are impacting women and taking away their ability to earn more?
Okay. So women, for whatever reason, and I'm not putting women down, this is just the way it is. Like, this is just where we are with our social constructs that have come out of our history. Women are used to taking a back seat, and we balk at money, earning the right amount of money, because we feel that somebody, this is one reason, there'll be others. We feel that somebody will leave us if we earn more money. We will become something of a threat. And the reality is, I think that a lot of men are threatened by a successful woman. So this is not a thought process that's formed out of thin air. This is a thought process that we've come to through socializing in our society. Women who talk up and earn up are often considered badly. And every single woman on the planet knows that. So we need to decide, what are we really worth? What are our skills and our genius zone worth? What are other people who are doing my same work, what are they earning? And if I'm not earning as much as them, we have to get curious again. What is this really about? Now, people talk about, there's a narrative that when a man wants a raise, he does a bit of thinking and preparation. He walks into the boss, or he makes an appointment with the boss and says, well, listen, Jack, I think it's time for a review of my salary, and I'd like to put forward that this is what I'd like my new salary to be. I'd like it to increase by this much percentage points. And I can back up that because I've achieved this, this, and this, and this. Now, the majority of men have no problem doing that. Women do. We do have a problem. And I would suggest, particularly where we're talking about women earning a lot of money, but the same goes for women who are not earning that much money, we need to become very aware of our inner resources and our skills and talents. So this is another thing women do. We ignore how resourceful we are. And there's an exercise that we do in money coaching, which is it's an exercise that you do from age, from when you start to walk right up to now, about what are the achievements in your life, where were you successful, where were you happy, and let's have a look at that. And when you get to the end of doing an exercise like that, you think back and say, gee whiz, I've got a lot to contribute. I've already contributed a lot. So I would suggest to the women in that position that they have a very good look at what their salary is in comparison to other people doing similar work, including the men. And then I would do an exercise with myself of what I've achieved over the last 12 months. And then I'd think about, what salary do I think I should get? then we need to ask for a little bit more than what we think, because that gives a bit of room for negotiation. And then the absolute best thing you can do is practice that conversation with somebody, and not practice it once. Practice it half a dozen times, because, see, I was a leadership and an executive coach. So this is stuff I used to do all the time. You need to practice it half a dozen times. And what happens is, the first time you practice, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to feel like a dill, and you're going to feel like your foot's in your mouth, and you're all anxious and antsy about it. Okay, yeah, good. Next time, a little bit better, not so antsy. Oh, now we've changed a bit of language, because the language that we wrote down, it doesn't flow when we speak. So now we're going to change that a little bit, do an edit. And we're going to keep practicing until we feel 100%. Because what we do, I mean, I think men do this too, but what women do is, we have to have this conversation. So we go into the conversation where we're anxious and nervous. Now, when a human being is anxious and nervous, they either go into freeze or flight. So if you walk into the boss's office and all you want to do is get out of there, or you freeze so that you can't put your words together because you're so anxious, that's not the right way to do it. You have to practice. So you practice at home with somebody until you can do this without batting an eyelid. And it's really practiced, because what that then tells your emotions and your brain is that this is not new. We don't need to be anxious about this. We know what we're saying, and we're solid, and we're confident. So that's the tip I'd give about salaries. If you're in business and you're under earning, it's a similar process of, looking at every part of your business, what your expenses are, what you're bringing in, and deciding what new choice you might have to make. And the other thing that I think is really important, now it's not going to be like this for everybody, but it's going to be like this for quite a few people. We don't want to emasculate whoever the partner is in our life. So we better just stay at this income level so that the boat stays steady. We don't want to rock the boat. So we'll just sit here earning this money. Well, my response to that is, if your relationship is going to fall over because you are earning what you're worth, then I would question that relationship.
That's very true. Very true. I mean, you're not being true to who you are. And you're trying to keep yourself small, which isn't really who you are. And so that, makes absolute 100% perfect sense. So tell us, you talk a little bit about the syndromes that are affecting the majority of women. Can you tell us a little bit about what those syndromes are?
Okay, yes, we have the bag lady syndrome.
Mhm.
And this came directly out of my own head. So when I started learning and talking about this in 2015, I realized that I had this vision in my head that I was going to end up as a bag lady. A bag lady is an old lady who's homeless, who has all her belongings in a shopping trolley. And I had this vision in my head that that's where I was going to end up. So I talked about it with a friend. And that was the first step, to get it out in the open. And this is what the majority of us do not do. We don't get it out in the open. So I got it out in the open, and I talked to somebody. And then I was doing all this work and research and reading, and I realized, in fact, that the bag lady is a syndrome. It's a syndrome, it's a fear syndrome, and we could call it different names, but I'm just looking for it, yes, here it is. We can call it different names, but I decided that the bag lady was the best because it's emotive and it stops people. What's a bag lady? And the very, very interesting thing is that a large majority of us are walking around with that lady in our head, living there rent-free, and we don't realise that the majority of us have this same bag lady. We think, like I thought, fancy having such a negative image in my mind, fancy carrying this image in my mind. And it's quite shameful and embarrassing that I would be thinking these sorts of things. Well, it was embarrassing and shameful until I found out that nearly everybody had the bag lady. So then I thought, how can we manage the bag lady? Let's see, again, let's get curious about this bag lady. Let's see who she really is. So the first question to ask about the bag lady is, and this is a question I ask my clients to ask all the time, the question is, where is the evidence that I'm going to end up as a bag lady?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the evidence? Do you have any evidence? Oh, you don't have evidence. Then why do you think this? We think this because it's generational, it's been handed down. It's just one of the many things that we picked up. And also there is a great reality that women don't have the same retirement funds that men have. So I thought, well, how can we manage the bag lady so that we can soothe some of the anxiety? Because again, the bag lady is just a symptom. It's a symptom that all is not well with our money. And so I say, take action. Taking action is becoming financially literate. And when you do that, you already make a huge step forward. And my suggestion is, you don't try to do all of these things at once. I've got 10 tips, and if you work through those over 12 months, you would be in a very different position in your life and your money than where you are now. So obey the rules of money, and that is respect money, don't lend money, don't owe money, keep your debts low, and do a budget. Practical, very practical things, because once you start doing those practical things, you will feel far more in control. You need to make a plan. So this is another thing that we do. We do not make financial plans, and we do not draw up financial priorities. Now, if you have a financial priority that you're going to put into your financial plan, you will have a great deal more control over your life. And this is exactly where having a budget helps you to make choices. You can make choices. Reassert self-reliance. So what often happens to women, particularly women in domestic households with children, is that particularly when we're the main carer, we lose a bit of our foothold in regards to work and money, or it changes. It changes the balance in the house. So my suggestion is that women have to reassert self-reliance. They have to rely on themselves. While ever they're relying on somebody else, they don't have control. So they need to reassert themselves. And I'm not talking about, busting in and making demands. I'm talking about sensibly managing the balance in the household so that they don't get lost in motherhood. Motherhood is an extraordinary thing, but it has its high points and it has some low points. And some of the low points are that women can lose a bit of balance of power in the relationship because they're at home and they're not earning any money. So you need to reassert self-reliance, depend on yourself, and make sure you are equal and 50% included in the financial decisions in your household. And again, this doesn't have to be an aggressive or unpleasant thing. This can be, it would be fun if we did this together and we made plans together and we worked towards a goal together. That would bring us closer and make for more unity. And the children would have a great example of how to do this later for themselves.
Absolutely. No, these are fantastic tips. These are absolutely timeless and very important.
Yeah. Number 6 is take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to manage? So this is the same vision. This is the same thing on an airline where you have children and they've just, there's turbulence and there's a problem and the oxygen mask comes down. The parent has to put that mask on the child first. I'm sorry, the parent has to put that mask on themselves first, because we want that parent conscious and okay to get the masks on the children.
Exactly.
And this is exactly the same thing. You need to take care of yourself first. So the more you can take care of yourself, the happier that you'll be. But not just that, the more you take care of yourself, the better position you are in to create good things for your children and your partner. So, some people have the idea that taking care of yourself is a little bit selfish. Well, I think it's good selfishness, because if you can't treat yourself and look after yourself, how are you going to constantly be giving to the children and the partner? I mean, you've got to have space for yourself. And the other part that goes with that is having respect for yourself and deserving good things. So you see, respecting yourself and raising your level of deservingness is not just about money, it's about your own well-being. So all of these tips are in fact about your well-being. It's not just about the money. Number 7 is connections matter. So what happens with this is that we all isolate ourselves because there's a huge taboo around money, and there's an unspoken rule that you cannot speak about money with anybody, and this includes your family. This is a big no-no. You are not allowed to talk. Well, did anything ever get resolved by not talking?
It's ridiculous.
So,
I used to be a financial consultant, and I could tell you, I mean, people would rather come into my office and tell me about their love life than talk about how much money and where it was and what they were invested in and what they were doing with their money and all.
Everybody would prefer to talk about drugs, sex, and death than money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens, what this does for women is that we isolate ourselves. Each and every one of us isolates ourselves instead of having some support in our community. And I don't mean people giving us money. I mean, friendship and support. While ever we don't talk about it, we can't get any support for it. And if you say to me, oh, no, there's just no way I could ever talk, to the people in my circle. I don't want them to know, blah, blah, blah. I say, yeah, goodo, that's okay. Go to the bank, go to 4 different banks and talk with the financial planner. You don't have to buy anything, but you can just go and have a talk.
Mm-hmm.
And they want your business, so they're happy to talk to you for an hour. You go to the bank, you take your numbers with you and start talking to the bank. Maybe you have a bookkeeper you could start talking with because they already know your numbers. Maybe you have a financial planner, they know your numbers. An accountant doesn't really know all your numbers because they're doing your tax. Well, maybe at the level of your business, they do know all the money. So if you don't want to talk in a friendship circle about money, I say that's okay. Start talking to professional people about money, and in the first instance, do that in situations where you don't have to pay a fee. And it's a bit like I was just saying about practicing your salary speech. This is like practicing talking about money. So this is a learning curve. Go and talk to somebody about money.
Yes. No, the more you talk about it, and to me, the more you talk about it, the more you're putting also, this just from the law of attraction standpoint, the more you're putting your awareness and your attention on money, not the lack of it, but the actual, putting your attention, focus, and energy on money. It's going to draw more money to you. I mean, the more comfortable you are with the conversation about money, the more you're going to be looking for opportunities and ways to improve your relationship with money. It's about a relationship, really, with money,
It is
everything
about
that you're talking about.
Yeah. Number 8 is value your future comfort as much as you value your comfort today. And I can't stress this enough for the young ones. They think, like I thought when I was their age, they think that retirement, oh, that's yonks away. I don't have to worry about that right now. My answer to them is no, it's going to be here next week. It's going to be here next week. And in 1 week, your kids are adults now, and it's time to make sure you've got a plan. If you don't start making your plan now, you're not going to have enough at the other end. And this is so true for women, because in retirement, we really suffer. So this is actually an urgent call to action for women, so that we are looked after in our old age, and so that we don't, we're not a bag lady. Young ones need to start now. And again, if a young one wants to start but they don't know how, I'd give the same advice. Go and talk to somebody at the bank, see what they have to say. Have a session with a financial planner, see what they have to say. Because a financial planner with a young one, like my daughter, for example, I sent her to a financial planner. She now has income insurance. They all need to have income insurance, but nobody tells them, because we don't learn this stuff in school.
No.
So you have to value yourself as an old lady as much as you value yourself now. And you are the mother of that old lady. So you're in the sandwich. You are the mother to the children, and you are the mother to the old lady. You have to do both, and you've got to make a plan for both. Character counts. Yes, character counts. Being honest, being vulnerable, telling the truth, being resourceful, standing strong for what you know is right, putting your best foot forward. Character counts. And the degree of our character and integrity is an internal resource, and it changes the way we view ourselves. If you don't have respect for yourself, why would you expect that somebody else would have respect for you?
Absolutely.
So
I couldn't agree with you more.
Start with self-respect. Change your self-talk. This is unbelievably important, and I will send you a link that you can give to your clients of a 30-day, free 30-day email challenge about the naysayer, soothing the naysayer. Because we all talk to ourselves in our head all day, every day. And you'll know this as a hypnotherapist, and a lot of what we're saying to ourselves is total rubbish. And we're saying this total rubbish to ourselves because we've never got curious about it, and we've never actually asked ourselves, is this true or not? And most of the time, the negative things that we're saying to ourselves about ourselves are actually not true. And that's why you do a reframing exercise. This is the statement, I'm not good with money. Is that really true? No, it's not. So what's the new statement? I am good with money, and I know I'm good with money because I did this. So all of this self-talk needs to be examined for evidence, because mostly we're saying stuff to ourselves that is no longer true.
That is gold. That is the truth.
Yeah, I'm not good with money. Really? Why not? What do you mean you're not good with money? Being good with money is the same as being good with speaking Spanish as a foreign language. It's the same. Be open, be curious, learn stuff, be prepared to be vulnerable, examine everything for the evidence. It's exactly this. It's a learning process. And what impedes us greatly in this learning process is the rubbish that we're saying to ourselves. And another really important part about change your self-talk is that people will say, right, well, I'm going to do a whole load of affirmations. And I think that's fabulous. I mean, I've done the same training that Louise Hay did with Science of Mind. I know all about the law of attraction, and I think it's great. And I think the affirmations are very valuable. And I think, you know, working on tapping with a woman by the name of Margaret Lynch online is a fabulous thing to be doing. I tap every day. So what I'm saying is, it's not just the law of attraction. Just the law of attraction is not going to get you there. You also have to work over here on the other side of the coin, because when you say affirmations to yourself, like, I'm a multimillionaire, there's a little voice in the back of your head that says, ha, 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 ha. No, you're not. So we've got to deal with that little voice, and we've got to tell it to shut up. You know, Louise Hay used to say, when a negative thought would jump into her mind, she'd say, yes, thank you so much, brain. Thank you for reminding me I had a problem with that. Thank you for letting me know. And I'm managing it differently now, so you can sit down and be quiet.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Yes.
Well, we've got this inner naysayer who's very worried, very anxious, and basically thinks we should just stay in bed all day, because if you walk out there, you might get killed. That's how our inner naysayer works. So we have to change that. So be positive, like, you know, with law of attraction, but also take notice about the value of what you're saying, and is it true? Because 98% of the time it is not true. So someone will say to me, yeah, good. Well, if you say the law of attraction and doing this kind of work works, how do you get positive if you have to change your self-talk? How do you do all of this? So the way to do it is to just become aware. We go back to the money story, because the money story will tell you the things that you're saying to yourself. And when you have that list of things you're saying to yourself, you can then ask for the evidence. And if it's not true, you can tell your brain it's not true anymore. Thanks for helping me, but I don't need you right now. Now, the other thing which falls in line with take action and obey the rules of money is to start an automatic savings account. Now, that means that you open an account with a bank that is your savings account. It's not used for anything. It's only used to put money in until you make a decision, a conscious decision to take some money out. Now, if somebody says to me she's a single mum waitressing tables, what am I crazy? Do I think that she can find money to do that? What's wrong with you? I don't have that money. My response to that is, you can start with $10. It's not about the amount of money. It's about the symbolic action that you're taking. You are taking action in favor of yourself. You are putting some money there so that you can make conscious decisions and planning about money. So you're giving yourself a whole load of new messages about yourself. So just think about it. If somebody starts to really become literate, like they go, and I'm not saying that they have to, like, I'm just saying the book I was talking about is called The Barefoot Investor. It's by an Australian man by the name of Scott Pape. And the reason I like it so much is that it's conversational and it treats you like a person who has a brain. He's not treating you like you're a dill. He's treating you like this is a learnable thing. Let's have a look at it. And that's why he's so good. If you go through each of these and you tick them off over 6 months to a year, your life, your money will be in a different place. And how you feel about yourself will have changed exponentially.
Absolutely. These are all amazing tips, and they're simple. They're not they're not complex. And not to confuse it with easy. They're simple, but you know, when you do these tips, you know, your life is going to change financially.
That's right.
And
now you asked me, yeah.
And so where can our audience find out more and, maybe begin, you do some money coaching and all kinds of wonderful things. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those things that
Yes.
you do and where people can find you?
Yes. So people can find me at themoneyproject.net. And I'm just launching a new course. Now, this course is priced so that any woman can do it. It's priced at 97 Australian dollars, 75 US dollars. It's 6 modules, and it takes you through it takes you through the basics of taking a money coach approach to your money. It doesn't cover everything. And when I say everything, I'm talking about overspending, under-earning. I'm talking about those things. What this does is you will get your money story. You will find out what your money story is. You will know what you are saying to yourself. You will have the opportunity to look at all of that and decide what you want. And after you decide what you want, you're going to think, well, how am I going to get there? What am I going to do? We also do a money quiz, and we look at your money archetype, because that will help you to strategize and to strategize the story that you want. We do one module on the practicalities of money. There are 9 pieces in the practicalities of money, and one of them, and this is not highfalutin finance, this is simple everyday stuff. So one of them is to start an automatic savings account, and why is that important? Then we do a module on breaking blocks and how you can use various techniques to break through blocks. And then we do a module on how to manage your stress about money. So it's called the 3-step circuit breaker, because I have found that women, even earning very large amounts of money, still have a lot of stress about money, because they often have 2 conflicting entities. They've got this modern woman who's earning this excellent salary, and they've got this little girl who saw that mummy had nothing to do with the money and daddy completely controlled the money. So now she's feeling a little bit like she's rebelling against her parental model. So she still has problems. What's the next question? I lost myself there.
You were telling us about your course.
Oh, the course. And then in module 6, we do a wrap-up. Now, this is an excellent course. It's 6 weeks. It's self-paced. And I'm biased, but I think it's a very excellent place to start. And no one is locked. I mean, how many people are locked out on the basis of price because of that?
Yeah,
And
it sounds like a life-changing course that is very affordable, very fair, priced, and something that a woman or man can, men take this.
Well, men can do it if a man wants to take it. If a man wants to take it,
I know a few men who also have money concerns as well. So I think this would be a fabulous way to help the person to establish themselves with their new money mindset, and and get to know your style of coaching and teaching. And so this has just been a really deep, thorough interview, and I just really want to thank you for all your time and all the information that.
There's another course, and that course is called the Money Project. The one I just told you about is Money Mindset Momentum.
Money Mindset. Okay.
The Money Project is 8 weeks, and it's bigger, and it's actually much bigger than just 2 modules, and it goes into a lot more detail. And it has weekly live coaching with me. I forget whether I put down an hour a week or 2 hours a week. But there's weekly live coaching and contact. And that is priced at 1,500 Australian dollars. And that's about 1,200 US dollars, somewhere there. Now, I think that course is fabulous as well. And it goes through things like imposter syndrome, Prince Charming syndrome, over-earning, under-earning, overspending, I meant to say, not over-earning.
Wouldn't we all like to have that problem?
And then it goes into, things like enoughness and not enoughness.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we get out of bed every morning and we're already saying, I didn't have enough sleep. So not enoughness colours our lives, not just money.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about deservingness. So we talk about a whole lot more stuff in the Money Project than we do in Money Mindset Momentum. And if the people do the Money Mindset Momentum and then they decide, oh, well, I'd like to do that over there, they get their $97 credited because the Money Project has the same quiz in it and the same circuit breaker. So I don't want people paying for something twice because I would hate that. And so they get a $97 credit towards the big course.
That's very fair.
They can put their names down for group coaching. But the 2 courses are the main thing. And the thing I'm really pushing now in COVID, whilst we're still in COVID, is the $75 course, because I think everyone can manage that.
Awesome.
In COVID, I don't know that everybody can manage the $1,200 course. But in COVID, I think they can manage 75, and it is a life-changing course. Because, if you're very stressed about money, doing the 3-step circuit breaker and learning that stuff, that crosses over into every other part of your life.
Absolutely.
And the money archetype, the money personality archetype, it's about money. But when you look at it, it's also about the rest of your life. It also ties in. So everything ties in. So when you work with money, that's why I say with money, the rubber meets the road, because you can't hide anything with money, and everything in your life gets changed when you start working with the money.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up and let people know that they can get this information over at themoneyproject.net. And you also have an ebook on the wealth mindset. I have an ebook
on the wealth mindset. That's an ebook and a workbook on building a wealth mindset, and that's a free giveaway. That's a free gift. I also have a PDF of the top 10 tips for the bag lady. And I think, as we talked about that today in a bit of detail, I think it would be nice if they had that as well.
Absolutely.
So I can send that to you and they can download it, because look, it's not very long. But it's like
we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and put a link to where they can get that in the show notes.
Yeah, and I'll send those to you now. I haven't sent them to you yet?
No. And
okay, I'll send them to you now when we finish.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Power of Your Mind podcast. It was a pleasure, and we got so much information. You guys, you got to visit Virginia on her website, themoneyproject.net /wealth-mindset-ebook-opt-in. You can get a lot more information. We're going to put everything in the show notes and let you know where you can sign up for courses, do coaching, and all of those great things. And so thank you again for being a guest on the Power of Your Mind podcast.
Victoria, thank you for having me. It's been a delightful time chatting.
Thank you.